Hello guys and girls, how's it going? Screezel here and I hope you're all well. And you join me in F1 2018. Yes, the new Formula 1 game. Not so new now. Well, it is new, it's pretty new. But, you know, it's been out for a couple of weeks, well, for a week or two. Anyway, enough rambling. F1 2018. Yes, it is a new Formula 1 game. And, yeah, a few things have changed since 2017. The game is it's different. It's still very similar. Career mode has changed a little bit, and that I'm thankful for. It's a little bit more. Well, you need to use a little bit of strategy and skill to get through some races, which is really good. The actual driving is really good. I'm using a Logitech controller. Unfortunately, my wheel is a bit broken, so I'm not using a wheel system. But it works well on controller. You do need to play around a bit with it. They recently patched it and has caused problems with medium traction control settings where it doesn't really work anymore. So we just got to get loads of little bugs fixed up and little things like that. But what we're going to do today is we're going to do a Grand Prix. And we're going to use, of course, modern F1 cars. But just before we do that, we'll just look at some of the classics. So with the classic F1 cars, we get the Gold Leaf Lotus, the 1972 Lotus 72, one of the most beautiful cars in just ever. Fantastic. I love the colour scheme. Fantastic Lotus. The 1976 Ferrari 312 T2. Again, a legendary car. Beautiful vehicle. This would have been Lauda. Just glorious. Glorious vehicles. 1976 McLaren M23D. Of course, James Hunt's car. And these two are rather important because, of course, this is the epic battle between Lauda and Hunt. The 1978 Team Lotus car. Again, glorious Lotus. 1979 Ferrari. 1982 MP41B McLaren. McLaren MP44, of course, the most legendary car. The MP46. Now, the MP46 is the one most people remember. The 44 is probably the most important car. The 46 is the evolution that just made it into an absolute legendary vehicle. 1992 Williams. Of course, the car that brought home one Mr. N. Mansell to get his championship. Red 5, glorious car. This car had active suspension, traction control. It was just so advanced. It just unbelievable vehicle. The 1995 Ferrari, of course, with Gerhard Berger and Jean Alesi. Jean Alesi taking his only win at the Montreal Grand Prix of that year, on his birthday, in fact. Jean Alesi should have had one more races, but I won't get into that. The 1996 Williams, of course. One Mr. Damon Hill won this championship in this car. 1998 McLaren, one of the most dominant cars of the Formula 1. This thing just blitzed the field when it came out. Similar to a car we'll get onto in a little bit, but this car just completely blitzed the field in Australia. Just unbelievably fast out of the box, and of course taking Mika Hakkinen to his championship. The 2002 Ferrari, possibly one of the greatest cars built. It's a bit of debate between that and the 04, but the 2002, of course, taking Schumacher to one of his many championships. The 2003 BMW Williams. Again, awesome vehicle. I love the BMW Williams. Of course, this was driven by Juan Pablo Montoya and Ralf Schumacher, I think. Trying to remember my years. 2004 Ferrari. Of course, the last championship that was won with Ferrari and Michael Schumacher. Because 2005 and 2006 belonged to Renault. And the 2006 Renault, driven by Jarno Trulli and, of course, Fernando Alonso, taking his 2 championships. This is the 06 variant, which was his last championship. The 07 Ferrari, Ferrari's last championship winning car, of course, with Mr. Kimi Raikkonen. 2008 McLaren MP423, the car that took Lewis Hamilton to his championship victory. And as you can see, it's got the wheel. If you look at the wheel hubs on these things, they've actually got special wheel hubs designed for aerodynamic reasons. This was probably one of the most aerodynamically designed cars ever built. It was ridiculous. And it's pretty ugly, in all honesty. It's not a very pretty car. The 08 McLaren was not a very pretty car, especially with its Dumbo ears on the front. Moving on to a car that is quite pretty, though. The Brawn. Yes, the 2009 Brawn, the car that took Jenson Button to his championship. I had some insider knowledge about this car, actually. A friend of mine sent me a message saying, put money on Jenson Button to win the championship and win in Australia. Because this car was originally going to be a Honda, and Honda pulled out of Formula 1 at the beginning of 2009, and this team had no engine, it had no team anymore. And Ross Brawn stepped in, bought the team, got a Mercedes engine in the back of it, and the design of this car was amazing. It had the double diffuser, of course. Sorry, the blown diffuser. And that revolutionised that year's championship, and really this car was just dominant throughout most of the season. Of course, Red Bull were fighting it, as well as Ferrari and McLaren, but this thing just was a complete revolutionary car. It was fantastic. If Honda had stayed in, they could have won the championship. Of course, the engine may not have got them the championship. But yeah, Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello in these cars. So yeah, my friend sent me this message, and I said, don't be stupid. They're not going to even make it to Australia. He sent me a message at the end of the season with his winnings, and it was a bit of a kick in the dick, to be honest. It was. I deserved it, though. The 2010 Red Bull, of course, a car that took Sebastian Vettel to his first championship. And that is where we end for the classic cars. Now, of course, we go on to the modern era cars, because that's what we're going to race today. And, of course, the modern era cars with the Halo is a bit decisive. Recent races with the Saubers, actually, both Saubers have been using the Halo. In all honesty, at Spa, look, the Halo didn't do much for protection. It's good to be there, though. But that wheel wouldn't have hit the car. It would have just glided over the top of Leclerc's head. And not really done anything. But I would rather see a Halo on a car and have drivers safe and not have it. With what happened to Bianchi, of course, not sure if the Halo would have saved him. They shouldn't have had that tractor on the track. The FIA were to blame on that one, but that's another story. But yeah, I've lost too many people that I know and too many people that I admire through racing, and anything that helps keep them alive is important. Anyway, back to the game. So let's take out... Well, the Ferrari and Mercedes are dominant at the moment. They are absolutely annihilating the field. Red Bull, sort of the best of the rest, so to say. Now, Sahara Force India Formula 1 is no longer a name for the team. So, interestingly enough, it's changed mid-season to... I can't even remember the name of it, but they've lost all their points basically and started again. So I don't know if they'll change the name of the team. Williams are doing god-awful. The car is a horrible vehicle, and it's stalling airflow and just not working at all. Renault are okay, I guess. They're not doing too badly, but they're not doing great. Toro Rosso are not doing too badly. The Honda engine is doing quite well this season, and it's not terrible. Of course, Brendan Hartley has the worst luck in the world, but Pierre Gasly has done a fantastic job. Haas are doing great. They're sort of picking up points. They're doing okay. They're pretty much around Sauber. You know, Haas and Sauber are about the same, similar engines. Grosjean is doing a good job. Magnussen's having one of the best years of his career. And then we got McLaren. Oh, McLaren, what have you done? You've made a car so bad it's forced Fernando Alonso to retire. Being as that's the case, we're going to jump in as Fernando Alonso. And also, poor Stoffel Vandoorne. He deserved to get it. He deserves a chance in Formula One. He's a fantastic driver, but this McLaren is just dog awful. So, let's go to. Now, there's lots of tracks you can choose. There's actually short tracks as well. These are for the whatever you call it, the classic series. So we have many tracks to choose from, of course, through the season. All the tracks are here, including, of course, Paul Ricard. And we've just had Italy. We're, of course, going to Singapore next. Sochi, America, Mexico, Brazil, and then Abu Dhabi for an Abu Dhabi do. Anyway, so let's go to Canada. I love Canada. This is my favourite circuit. I adore this track. Okay, so you've got all the different things to choose as well, all the different options to play around with, you know, all the different bits and bobs. As I said, at the moment I had to go back to full traction control because, yeah, it's not working with medium traction control, unfortunately. Let's go for some heavy rain. Heavy rain seems good. And you can also change the time of day for the race as well. So let's have it at sunset, at heavy rain and sunset, because that's going to make it fantastic for the race. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be quite dark, I imagine. Of course, flashbacks are still a thing, and sometimes it is needed. I do need to use them sometimes because my computer is a little bit jittery. The game runs really well. My rig is not the best out there. Even, you know, my rig's getting on to about 6-7 years old now. It's starting to age, and I do need to get a new one.
Here we go again then for another round of Grand Prix action. The conditions are just right to spice up the racing in this part of the world today, and we're all itching to get underway.
And of course you have Crofty and Anthony Davidson talking at the start.
Look at the starting grid. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole.
So I imagine we're starting last.
Okay, the run into turn 1 isn't too long, so the pack will be bunched up. Take care.
And of course you do have your engineer, and you can still use voice commands and things like that for that section. So we'll just go for a increased downforce package. There's no point in really going to. We're not going to play around too much. So as you can see, the cockpit view is interesting with the Halo. I don't use cockpit view very much because, well, if I'm using a steering wheel, I do. But when I'm using a controller, I prefer to be on the top of the car. So we'll start the race. And away we go. And as you can see, in the wet, it is very hard to see. And you do really get that feeling of these wet conditions just being very hard to use. Now, of course, you do also have all the options of things like your ERS system. So you can have it set to automatic or manual. And basically that's your battery. And if you use it manually, basically you've got to harvest energy. Oh shit. harvest energy as you go around the track. Of course, braking zones are where you're going to get the most energy for your car. And then you use the most power on the straights to give you that extra horsepower. So that's a really neat little feature, and that of course can help with fuel management, things like that. Fuel management's still in the game. In career mode, you still have to worry about component wear and things like that and do all the research. Which is great because it just really it adds something to the game, and it allows you to improve your team. Now, one thing that is new for this year is at the end of the season there will be shake-ups for the team performances. So although Mercedes and Ferrari will dominate the first season, of course, next year maybe McLaren will have got it right and they'll be dominant, you know. So there's little things like that that actually change up the seasons now, so you're no longer just going through the same old, which is really good and a really welcome thing to be added to the game. So that is really, really handy to have. Of course, DRS is still there, but of course it's not being used in this weather condition. The options for setting your opponent AI level is there still. One of the things I do find, unfortunately, with this game is that when you set it to higher AI difficulties, even though the AI is somewhat easy to beat in some circumstances, if you have it too high, your practice tasks become nigh impossible to complete, especially things like tyre management if you're using controllers, and that's one of the big problems I'd say of the game. That's probably one of the big negatives that I've found so far. Of course, with full traction control on, the game is a little bit almost too easy. I'm a bit slower in all honesty at the moment because I am chatting. Just run a little bit wide there so we don't get a force injury in our side. Damage models are really quite good as well. And the new simulation damage is actually very good. Your car will take a lot of damage from just little tiny knocks. So you can no longer just bump people with your front wing. You will lose bits and you will get damage. A damaged front wing, though, is not the end of the world. Because even with a damaged front wing, you're not going to be completely at a loss. You're going to struggle, of course, with downforce. But you're not going to be completely out of the race. And you can complete a race with a damaged car, which is really, really cool. A little bit wide there. One really good example was my last race in career mode was actually at Spain. And my engine was at 91% worn, 91% wear. And of course I don't want to be blowing up the car, but I also don't want to be wasting engines. Now, Spain is a circuit that I'm not too good at and I'm not confident at, so I didn't want to get a brand new engine for Spain. Now, next up is Monaco, of course, in the career, and that means that, you know, engine's not that important. Really cocked up my gear changes there. And so I wanted to keep my engine and get a new engine for Monaco. Getting the slipstream, and you can still really punish the AI with late braking. The AI still struggle with braking sometimes, I find, but
Final lap of the race.
it's not as bad as it used to be. They do sometimes tap you as well. There is that sort of issue of the AI hitting you. But it's not as bad as it was in 2017. So it really does feel very good.
To car in front is 6.1 seconds.
And that's a really nice feature, just having AI that's quite competent. Of course, as I say, it does make it pretty hard in career mode. Oh crap. Ran a very bit wide there. In career mode, because, you know, it's frustrating to have to do those sessions when they're nigh impossible to complete, because the difficulty's too high. And then the AI is too easy. The AI is, you know, you can beat the AI. You know, I've had circumstances where I've needed to set a time in practice to get my sort of tyres or something like that done. Of course, we still have photo mode as well, so I'll just show you the cars outside quickly. So yeah, sort of doing tyre wear and tyre management and stuff like that. And the game is a lot prettier on a better PC, by the way. And basically, you know, it just the time for, you know, the qualifying performance, they expect you to do, say, like a 1:20, when the tracks, you know, the track time that you're able to do is about 1:25, and that 1:25 gets you in like 4th place to the other AI opponents, but your qualifying simulation wants you to go much faster, and it's basically impossible to do that, which is really, really frustrating, and that's one of the very frustrating parts of the game, I would say. So let's just exit out of that, and we will, I didn't mean to do that, we will exit out of this, and we'll show you the crash physics as well. So as you see there, it's very easy to take a wheel off. We'll flash back again. We'll do a better crash than that.
The gap behind us is...
There we go.
Are you alright?
That's a proper
Let me know
crash.
you're right.
There we go. That's what we wanted to see. Okay. So, as you can see, gone around, front wings come off easily, and boom, boom, boom. And as you can see, you do get some nice damage models on the car. It's not completely there, you know, you're not going to get big lumps ripped out of the vehicle, you know, it's still pretty much just wheel damage, wing damage, things like that. But you actually do see sort of marks, tyre marks and things like that on the cars. As you can see, you know, the damage does look pretty decent. And when you have a big collision like this, you do get quite a lot of cars involved. And one of the interesting things I'd say is... oh, we need to flash back that, sorry. Is the AI do crash as well. Actually, in Spain again, I had half the field, well, not half the field, I had about 4 cars crash. And wipe each other out in front of me, and oh, well, goodbye Chico. And so it was really interesting. And
Race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
penalties are awarded for people that drive dangerously. The penalty system is sort of relatively good.
Here's our winner, pulling their... So, here they come now.
And of course you do have the slightly off features of the drivers.
The prancing horse flags are dominant
And all those strange people.
And they're out in again today. It's
The character models are not terrible though. It's pretty good. One thing that has returned as well is interviews, so that's also really, really good.
Davidson, who was your driver of the day?
My driver of the day was Charles Leclerc. He did a cracking job moving through the field, just highlighting why he's so highly rated in the paddock.
He
That's it for
got
today's
from
Grand Prix, and from
20th
Matt
to
and I, it's
16th.
goodbye, and see you
The
again
drive for
next
the
time.
day thing is kind of weird. You will just get the most random thing. You know, like, if I'd won that race, they probably would have awarded it to, you know, Marcus Ericsson or something for his, you know, couple of positions. You know, that's still very wonky, unfortunately. So that's basically Formula One 2018 in a nutshell. As I said, it is very decent. I would recommend it if you're a Grand Prix fan. It is well recommended. The career mode, as I've said, does have interviews back, and they're really good. They have actually just released the patch that allows you to reduce the interview time, and mean you don't get, when you get questions, they have a timer for it, and they've removed that function. You can remove that function now, thankfully, because it was annoying because you couldn't read all the options in time. So that's useful. As I said, the career mode is quite good because you do have the option of basically building up your car, building the team around you. This is me. I sort of sped through this a little bit to get to Grand Prix to China. I ended up winning in Bahrain, I think it was. I got a win because the AI was a little bit too low, and I sort of fixed it and got everything up to scratch after that. Plus, I kind of wanted the research points. The resource points are useful. But we'll just continue career here, just to show you just what it looks like in career mode. As I said, the tasks sometimes can be a bit annoying. The tyre wear task is still one of the worst things in the world. It's just horrible. One of the things that is really good about this year, though, is you don't have to do those challenges where you drive the classic cars, which is really, really handy. So you have your workstation, and you get to look at Charles Leclerc there. And in your workstation, you can choose your practice sessions, qualifying race, yada yada yada. You'll get messages from your team, just telling you how it's going, also telling you what's completed. Contract, now with the contract now is you sort of get a chance to upgrade your contract as you go through the year. So you're not actually in a fixed contract, which is interesting. But after, I think it's 4 races, you get a new contract offer. And what you can do with that is contract perks. So if you look down at the bottom left-hand corner, you can actually choose contract perks. And you have to actually choose these carefully because the contract might be rejected. So I've got number 1 driver status now. And that's something I wanted in my contract. Because I had good sort of value. If you look down at the bottom right hand corner, you've got the contract value and my value and reputation with the team and stuff like that, and that builds up with interviews. The value, of course, is based on your wins, but if you get good value, then you can ask for more, and you're not asking for money, but basically you can ask for more resource points, or upgrade speeds, or development, or pit stop efficiency, and you can build that up, and that's a really unique, cool little feature. And also you've got sportsmanship and showmanship, of course. Now, some teams prefer showmanship, such as Red Bull. They want you to be a showman, whereas Sauber prefer you to be a sportsman, you know, a little bit more gentlemanly, don't crash, don't knock people off, don't perform crazy stunts. They want you to just to drive, get points, and be consistent. So that's really, really cool. The rivals screen, you can choose your rival, which is nice, and you sort of... Your main rival, of course, is your teammate, and your teammate is always your rival, I think. It's always your first rival, at least. But you can then choose a rival from another team. I've chosen Carlos Sainz, and you just get more respect for beating them. Of course, if you lose the rivalry, then you lose respect, and that can affect your contract. And then driver details, so you know what's going on with your first season. So 31 points, 1 win, 1 pole position, 1 podium finish, 696 miles driven, 150 laps, 1 fastest lap, 10th is my average finish, and 10th is my average grid slot. Then we have the research and development section, and again this returns, and this is really quite fun. So in the R&D, you've got your chassis, powertrain, durability, and then aerodynamics. However, this year, basically, if you say in an interview, "Oh, the car was horrible, the chassis just felt crap," you will lose perks for the chassis development. The team will become despondent. Now, currently, I've been saying good things about the chassis, so therefore, I've got 4% price reduction and 2% less failure rate because the team are happy with me. Same with the durability. I've got no morale bonuses there because I've not really talked about the durability of the car. The engine, however, I've said it's a good engine. So again, we've got a little bit less failure chance. We've got a little bit less upgrade cost. Oddly, Williams appear to be the equal third best engine with Force India and Mercedes at the moment. Ferrari, actual main team, is lagging behind, which is rather amusing. And sort of, it's kind of weird sometimes. I don't know how Williams have got the best engine. And then you've got your aerodynamics, of course, and again, you can sort of choose to do those and get those upgraded. And they do cost a lot of points, but you do get points relatively quickly now. It's not like before where it took forever to get, on an average weekend you'd earn about 500 resource points. Now you can earn about, I think you can earn about on the old run it was probably about 200 resource points, 200 to 300. Whereas now, if you sort of manage to get a decent position, and it doesn't mean you have to get points, but if you get a good race and things like that, you'll earn at least 600 to 700. Pretty much, you'll be able to research one thing after every race, which is really, really welcome because it was a real drag before, and it was really frustrating to try and have to research everything on the car because, of course, durability is the most important thing in these seasons because if you use up all your parts, you're going to start getting penalties, and yeah, that can be kind of awful. So you've still got your management system here. So you've only got 3 engines this year, so 3 internal combustion engines. So you've really got to manage them. We're currently at Monaco, and my first engine is a bit buggered. So it's a little bit worn, which doesn't help things. But we're going sort of okay. As you get the development done, engines will wear less and things like that. Your MG UK, which is your motor generator, so this is your ERS mode, and again, it starts to wear, and you've only got 2 of those, so you've really got to be careful. And I kind of ruined this engine by over-revving it. I had a bit of issue at the start with my gears, so for the first couple of races I was over-revving the engine a little bit, so I have caused a bit more damage than I should have done. So the motor generator unit, the heat section, so this is basically your exhaust, so this is basically the exhaust system and sort of the heating section. You've got 3 of these, so again, keeping them managed is really, really important. The energy storage, you've only got 2 batteries, and again, you've got to really be careful with those. Using ERS can result in basically damaging the battery. It's not going too bad this year. Turbocharger, you only have 3 turbos this year. Again, just got to be careful of the revving and just keeping, basically the more you use it, the more it wears out. So you have to be careful of that. And then the electronic unit, the control electronics, and again, you only have 2 of these, but again, they don't wear out too quickly. Gearboxes, you only have a couple of gearboxes, so you get a I think you get a new gearbox after 6 races. That's right, 6 races. So gearboxes are not going too badly. The wear is not excessive at all. So that's good. So you basically just want to try and keep the gearboxes good as possible. You do have practice gearboxes now, which is handy, so you're not constantly wearing out your race gearbox in practice sessions. And of course, tyre selection. And again, you can select your tyres sort of for what you want. Generally, the default option is usually the best. And finally is just the championship standings, season results, and trophies. So there you can sort of see what's happened. And that's really it. And the rest of it is all just the racing. So I'm going to end the video there. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've sort of found it somewhat interesting. Would I recommend this game? Yeah, I would. If you're a Formula 1 fan, it's well worth getting. It is a huge improvement over the last game. If you've sort of, you know, it does get a bit sort of irritating buying a new Formula 1 game every year, but this one is well worth it, in all honesty. If you don't want to pay full price, wait for it to go on sale, but it is well worth buying. It's well worth the money. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you all again next time. Bye bye. This guy's coming in for a head on. Don't want any of that. Oh! Oh, that was beautiful! Holy crap, that was hilarious.